Hello, everyone. Welcome to From Chaos to Control. Modernize your AV warehouse operations with inventory management software and RFID, presented by Sven and Tim. This webinar is brought to you by today's sponsor, Rentman. Before I hand the presentation over to today's presenters, there are a couple of housekeeping items that I must address first. For the CTS holders among you viewing our presentation live, today's webinar qualifies for a half or null unit for the CTS and none for the CTSD nor the I. Please allow up to 7 business days for those to appear on your transcripts. If you have any issues, please contact AVIXA's webinar team at webinars@avixa.org. Today's webinar should last between 45 and 60 minutes, and all attendees have been placed on mute. If you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them into the Q&A window so Sven and Tim can address them at their discretion. Would more than likely be at the end of the presentation. To access this Q&A window, move your cursor towards the live stream video box, locate the Q&A icon, and just type away. But please be mindful that there's a separate menu for the chat and to not quite necessarily put your questions there unless they ask you to. You will have access to this recorded webinar on the AVIXA website within about 5 to 7 business days. Again, that's at avixa.org/webinars. That's all from AVIXA for now, and on to our presentation. Take it away, gentlemen.
All right. Yeah, hey everyone, and welcome to From Chaos to Control, where we're going to explore some new inventory management solutions for the AV and event production industry. I think starting things off, let's maybe check in where everyone is tuning in from. So yeah, if you guys could just post into the chat whereabouts you are all based. I see that we have somebody from London, UK. We have somebody from NYC, Fremont, Pomona. All right, Leicester, UK, Michigan as well. Good stuff. Thanks so much for sharing. Calgary, Canada. Wonderful. All right. Loving the energy already here. Oh, wow, even somebody tuning in from India. Not bad. Time zone wise, probably a little bit more difficult, but we'll take it. Mississauga, Canada. Hey, David, I'm based in Toronto. Okay, awesome. Then let's get things started. I'm going to start sharing my screen with you guys. So I will go ahead and do that. Let me just get myself set up here. There we go. And we'll jump right in. And if you guys have any trouble while I'm sharing my screen with you, you just yell in the chat and we'll take it from there. But yeah, thanks again for joining. And also, huge thanks to our partners at AVIXA for actually having us today. My name is Tim. I'm the operations manager for Rentman here in North America. I'm based right here in Toronto, Canada. Yeah, and I've been helping lead Rentman's growth here since around 2017. Pretty passionate and experienced in helping AV and event production companies yeah, solve some of the exact operational headaches we're going to be talking about today. And I'm actually also joined by my colleague Sven. Yeah, I'm actually going to quickly let him introduce himself because I think he's much better at this than me.
Thanks, Tim. Hi, guys. My name is Sven, and I am the manager of Geartracking. And Geartracking is a sister company of Rentman. And Geartracking fully focuses on making your life in the warehouse easier with labeling, QR codes, and one of our cornerstones, RFID as well, which will be in the second part of this presentation. So yeah, can't wait till I can get started as well.
Awesome. Perfect. Thanks so much for that, Sven. Yeah, just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. This session is really made for you guys. So please also use either the chat or the Q&A on the screen to ask questions as we go. Q&A makes it a little bit easier for us to keep track of who has asked what. So it might be great if you add it in there. But we'll also have some Q&A questions ourselves that we're going to be asking you guys. So to answer those, just post your answers into the chat. Sven and I are going to be both tracking them. And the way that I like to handle these webinars is a little bit like a YouTube live stream or a Twitch live stream. So it's nice to engage with you guys. So whatever you have to say, whatever ideas you have, whatever thoughts you have, just pop them in the chat and we'll engage with you guys there. Okay. So perfect. So housekeeping done. Let's get started. So, well, we covered this already. That's me. That's Sven. And let's talk a little bit about the agenda for today. So we're really trying to deep dive into the heart of the operations today that you might see in any event production, AV rental company, which is the warehouse. So what we're going to start off with is we're going to be looking at some traditional warehouse challenges that we see industry-wide that are likely causing you some headaches. We're also then going to focus on a modern framework that we've developed for taking back that control. And then I'm also actually going to walk you through a little live demo of Rentman. We only have 10 minutes for that, but just so you have a bit of an impression of what we imagine under this. I'll follow it up with a quick real life example, talking about some of our users and how they're managing it. So really what that control looks like in action. And yeah, finally, I'll hand it over to my colleague Sven, who introduced himself just now, for a deep dive into supercharging your warehouse with RFID. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions about RFID, maybe reserve that for the later portion because Sven is much more knowledgeable about this than me. I can just do the scanning. He knows all of the setup. So leave those questions for him. Perfect. So let's start off. Let's talk a little bit about the reality of the modern warehouse. And really the challenge is that more manual methods, which, developed decades ago, which might have worked fine 5, 10, or even further ago, are breaking down under the growing complexity of the AV and event production industry. So we're all dealing with more equipment. We have a faster turnover between jobs. We have tighter deadlines than ever before. And this pressure is what we see is turning this organized chaos that we've been dealing with into just plain chaos. So we're losing a very crucial part here. And honestly, it has a real measurable impact on businesses. And that's why we did a industry report, which you can see on the screen here, not that long ago. We did one in 2024. We also redid it in 2025. If you're interested in that, you can actually find that on our website. And we surveyed hundreds of decision makers about a variety of topics, but one key part of that was the warehouse. And what we found is that actually 63% of teams struggle with production costs increasing quite dramatically due to equipment loss and damage. On top of that, 43% say that their teams make fairly frequent mistakes when packing gear. And then over a third of companies, so exactly 34%, really seem to lack a single source of truth, which can frequently lead to double entries, to duplication of work as a result, and so on. And what we see is that these aren't just numbers. These really are daily realities that can create chaos and really eat into your profit. So that's why today's webinar title is also From Chaos to Control, because we want to provide an alternative route for how you guys can handle that. So we're going to provide a clear roadmap today to move from that chaos to control and really help you understand what new inventory management solutions and ideas and processes are out there. Yeah. Okay, so let's start off with where things are at for a lot of event production companies and AV rental houses and AV companies out there. Current warehouse reality, again, that increased warehouse complexity paired with those mentioned statistics are the symptoms of what we see as a fundamental disconnect, which is a gap between the reality of the office, where you might be doing your planning, your scheduling, and so on, and then the reality of the warehouse. And it really all starts with the traditional way of how warehouses are run. Because think about it, your warehouse probably runs on some combination of maybe inventory software, spreadsheets, you have whiteboards, you have printer packing slips, you have sticky notes. And really what happens is that the sales team sells the job. Then your project manager, operations manager, whatever you want to call them, finalizes things, prints pull sheets, hands it over, might be printed, might be just a spreadsheet. And this really is one of the first problems that we see is that it's one-way communication, right? So things get created, things get pushed over maybe to the warehouse manager, to the folks working in the warehouse. And oftentimes what is communicated is a static snapshot in time. They're not connected to real-time availability of your gear in the shop, or the live action of your crew of what is happening, which can really create massive uncertainty. It leads to more phone calls, it leads to more texts, it leads to more people being upset a lot of times. And really what this comes back to is that there's no real digital paper trail, and no recorded history. And I think that little meme that we have included here kind of tries to visualize that in a somewhat funny way. And what are the unfortunate results of that? Well, as I was saying, when you have all of these things happening, when you have that lack of a digital paper trail, you have much more frequent mistakes. If you have information siloed, so it isn't accessible by each party, maybe just by one, and they just push over a snapshot in time, gear gets forgotten, gear gets misplaced, wrong items get packed. Probably sounds familiar to quite a few of you. Then obviously as a result of that, or at the same time is wasted. So your crew might spend hours physically checking gear against outdated lists, instead of focusing maybe on having a solid QC process when it comes back. Because do you really know what is supposed to go out? Do you really know what's coming back? Like, when were these lists created, right? And then as a result, obviously, money is lost. If you have gear that is lost, that gets stolen, that is damaged on a job, and you have really a lot of limited visibility, you might be increasing your gear costs quite a bit, by just having unplanned replacement costs and generally high purchasing expenses. Yeah. So again, lack of a digital paper trail, lack of that connection, and what we see happening from that, especially based on surveys, mistakes, waste of time, and lost money. And if you guys are seeing these kinds of things as well, just post them in the chat, what's maybe happening in your company that we're not focusing on here. And again, if you do have any questions, just pop them in the Q&A, and then we'll pick that up. Perfect. Then, yeah. How do you guys currently track your gear? So this is the first of a couple of polls that we're going to do. If you want, maybe just post that into the chat. So are you guys using spreadsheets, Excel, Google Sheets? Do you have paper checklists? Do you have a big colored whiteboard where you have different, color settings for what status it is in? Do you maybe already have a dedicated inventory software, or do you maybe not have a formal system yet? So depending on what you're using, just post it into the chat. It's always nice to see what level people are at already and what's maybe working for some folks. All right. Tirsa Hammock is saying spreadsheets and dedicated inventory software. With Sean with spreadsheets and QuickBooks. All right. Now, gotta use something on the accounting side as well. Spreadsheets R2. Okay. Also one of the dedicated solutions out there. Flex. Okay. Gotcha. So seems to be a bit of a decent mix between dedicated systems like Flex R2, Rentman, but also a lot of spreadsheets is what I'm seeing here. And while you can host them online now with something like Google Sheets or Microsoft Office, oftentimes they don't update in real time. Okay, so slightly more manual methods is what I'm seeing here, and it's completely normal. I think it perfectly highlights some of the challenges that we really want to take on. And what I want to focus on now is what we see as smart warehouse operations and how those work on Rentman, right? So we've talked about chaos, some of the issues that result from that, and we're going to talk a little bit about control now. And really what we're focusing on is not just a new tool, because obviously there's a lot of software out there, but it's also a new vision that we're trying to push for your warehouse. And what we call it is digital warehouse autonomy. What does that mean? Fancy words put together. Well, it means creating a world where your warehouse and the work that is done in it is in direct synchronization with the office, where your team, depending on where they are, always has access to the correct live information. And as a result, the communication is much more efficient and much more seamless. And real-time visibility really is the key to success here. And what we have done is, is that we have built Rentman as a platform to be that glue between the different parts of your operation. So be that the office and the warehouse and the other parts of the organization as well. It's really meant to sit at the core of it and really expand outward from there. So it's designed to eliminate packing mistakes. It's designed to automate work for your crew and make your warehouse staff just much more accountable. And the way we do this is by replacing those, sometimes static and disconnected paper lists with a single central hub for all of your operations. So instead of hoping and doing a little bit of praying that everything goes smoothly, you have a system that ensures that the right gear always leaves and returns to your warehouse. So again, how do we do this? Digital packing slips. So we have a mobile app that runs on Android and iOS, where you can always see live and reliable information about your gear, what's planned, if last minute changes are made. Crew can directly see that on their devices, and much lower risk. We also have obviously QR code scanning. This also directly integrates with the Rentman mobile app, so you can just have people running around the shop working on the same job by scanning out gear at the same time. And thereby you basically have a digital checkpoint in your process that virtually eliminates most packing mistakes. Not all, but a lot of them. We have real-time equipment tracking. So we have warehouse statuses that you can customize. We have equipment insights tab, which really help you know the exact status and the location of your gear. So it doesn't matter if it's maybe in the prep area that you have outlined with some tape, if it's on location, if it's delayed, or if it's in for repair, it is visible right within the system as well. And Rentman is an out-of-the-box solution. We try to make that start much easier instead of you having to train, 40 people every single year on the software because of some updates. But at the end, it's still fairly customizable. Yeah. So you have digital pull sheets that are sorted based on shelf numbers. Maybe if you want to do that, you can enter custom statuses for your gear. And also, for example, add up a completely custom QC process within the system as well. And as a last step, obviously, RFID support, right? That's where things are slowly starting to move. I'm not going to talk too much on this, but really what it's meant for is that you can, verify contents of a road case without ever opening it. But before I, go too much into that, I'll leave that to Sven. But just so now you have an idea that that's directly integrated into the system as well. Okay, so I've been talking a lot about the theory here, but I also want to show you what we think this can look like. So I'm going to quickly show you a bit of a practical scenario for this by switching actually into Rentman. And I'm just going to show you guys around for like around 10 minutes on what we believe this looks like. So where we need to start things off in Rentman is with a project. The reason that we're starting things off with a project is that Rentman is a project-based management solution, which means at the core of any new gig job that you have, so it's a project that you create, and that project is the base from which you create your quote, your pull sheet, your call sheets for your crew, but also your gear list, which is then sent into the warehouse, which is a separate module in Rentman, also part of the software. Yeah. So to do that, I'm going to create a new project in here. So I have a nice little overview right here that shows me all of my projects. I see what's happening when. If I want to, I can also make this into a calendar view. This is really how most people use it to see what's happening. And I'm going to say, okay, I have a new gig happening. Let me go in here directly add that. So I add a new project. And then from here, I can start from scratch. I can just start with a blank project if I want to, so there's no information in there. But what really speeds things up is working with templates. And templates are really a way for you to say, okay, I don't want to start from scratch with every corporate gig that I have, because if we're being honest, what our corporate client wants 80-90% of the time is the same stuff. Maybe with a little bit, with some slight adjustments, but really that's where those templates can help out. So I'm going to choose one of those templates which has pre-entered gear and crew. I'm going to choose a new start date. So I'm going to say this is, happening on January 28th. I'm going to quickly double check some details here. Select that and jump right in. You can see it's a pretty snappy software in general. It works super fast. And then we're going to quickly run through this before we jump into the warehouse, because I think this is the base that you guys need to understand how we go from the warehouse from here. So we can give that project a name. So we can go in here and, for example, call this AVIXA Webinar. We can choose some things like the color coding, stock locations that we're pulling from, the client as well, location, tasks, notes, and files. So some basic stuff that you want to associate with a project. In the time schedule, it's a super crucial thing for you to enter in. Here you can directly enter in your production schedule. So whatever is relevant for your job, you enter that in. And those can also do things like logistics going out, logistics coming back in, setup, strike, whatever it might be. Nicely enter that in here. Make sure everything is in here so that everybody knows what's happening when. And then we go into equipment. And this is kind of like where we start off things when it comes to enabling the warehouse to actually see the gear. So the way that things work is on the left side, right here, I have my inventory and the way that I've set it up previously in my equipment database over here. And now I'm adding my gear into the project to the right side. Now to start things off, over here in my project, you can see I already have some equipment. Why is that? Well, I'm working with a template which has pre-entered information. So again, this is meant for you to speed up your workflows. Yeah, in that template or in my project here, I already have some, what you guys can see, folders right here. Those are what we call equipment groups. And equipment groups, you can add as many or as few as you want. And those are meant for you to categorize your gear in a job. Okay, so you can see in here, I have PA, I have front of house, mics, and so on. And I already have quite some gear added in here, whatever it might be. And now if I want to add gear into my project, I can just easily select a group. I can directly go in here, pick whatever I want. This is not going to make too much sense, but let me add a mixer. And then you can directly see I'm adding this. In this case, it also has a little accessory attached to it where it's asking, hey, do you want to add that? And then I'm directly adding that in. So piece by piece, I can build out my project that way. And I can do this by either adding individual items like I just did, but we also do have packages in here. If you're using an equipment, like an inventory management software already, then you might be familiar with this. So for example, in this case right here, you can see my Sure kit. That one actually contains quite a few items. Yeah. So again, I add in my items individually. I create packages in advance. I speed up my quoting flow. Heavily recommended for sure, because you don't have to add everything line item by line item like you might have to in QuickBooks. And at the same time, Rentman is actually doing some really cool stuff. It's actually telling you if it's even available or not, right? In like your typical spreadsheet is not going to do that. So in this case, my SD8 is marked in red and a bunch of other things. If I now want to know what's happening, I just open my timeline real quick. And for the respective time that I've chosen previously, I can now directly see, if I increase this a little bit, what my availability is looking like. And I can see that I was already short before. So now that means my shortage has increased by one more. We're now at -2 because we've planned one on the webinar. Okay. So this is step one. Setting up your base project, adding the equipment into it, checking the availability, making sure it's available, right? So moving on now, let's push this into the warehouse. So let's pretend this is all said and done. Show day or the day before, we're ready to book things out. So we're going to quickly make sure that our project is confirmed. Going to save that. And now we're going to remember what date this is happening. This is January 28th. So we're going to go to our warehouse and we're going to pretend that today is January 28th. And unless I messed up, we can now directly here in the warehouse see our AVIXA webinar happening. So what exactly is this warehouse module here? So this warehouse module is basically a replacement for that maybe cluttered whiteboard, printed overview that your warehouse managers might have. It's a central, clear overview of all ongoing projects that need to be picked and packed, and that are maybe currently out. And when they're coming back, you can directly work in here to book them back as well. Yeah. So in this view, they can delegate tasks, they can group those orders, and they can make sure that gear is booked out and gear is booked back in. So in this case, I want to delegate a little bit. I'm going to assign a crew member. So in this case, I'm just going to assign myself to this crew, to this project. So I know that I need to book it out. And really in here, there's like a couple of different ways you can work now. So let's, for example, imagine what you could do is you could take this screen right here, push it on a 30, 40 inch somewhere in the shop. And then people just need to come in, take out the phone with the Rentman app, scan this QR code right here. It immediately opens up a digital pull sheet on their phone. And with multiple people at the same time, you can walk around, scan out gear with multiple people on the same job at the same time. Increased speed, increased flexibility, all those things coming together. It's really hard for me to demo that in a webinar like this, which means I'm going to do the laptop-based scanning. So if you put that on some sort of dolly in the warehouse, you can directly push it around. And now I can just click on book right here, open it up. And then what you guys can see now is that I have my equipment list that I've just built out in the project flow. And that is now sitting right here as well. It's confirmed, which means we're good to move ahead with this. We can book it out now. And now by booking it from the left side to the right side, I can effectively move it out of the warehouse or maybe first into a prep status, which is what I'm doing here. Yeah. So now you can do that with your phone. You can scan. You can use an RFID scanner for increased speed, or you can also connect a simple Bluetooth-based barcode or QR code scanner and scan out items that way. Yeah. So in this case, if I now wanted to book certain things out, I can just click on them. Yeah, so there's also a manual way of doing it. So if you don't want to get involved with QR codes and barcodes or even RFID right away, you can even just have an overview of this and quickly use that digital pull sheet to have a little bit more accountability in the warehouse, because you can also track who has done what in this. This is a really nice thing that we have as well. You can directly see who has done what. So you book these things out. If you feel like you're missing gear, you can directly go up here and enter some additional equipment. If you feel like you need to plan an alternative, you can directly select that item, plan an alternative. You can see images right away. So nice little central view. And if somebody made some changes now, right, in the shop, if new gears was added, they can directly make those changes and it will be reflected right here in the digital pull sheet as well. And they can give you a nice little notice about that as well. Yeah. Okay. So this is a little overview. Again, it's about planning the project, pushing that into the warehouse, booking the gear out, and then later on, you can do the exact same thing again and book things back while also, for example, marking items as requiring maintenance, as being lost, and so on. Yeah. Okay, perfect. That was a very brief overview of Rentman. If you guys are interested in more, you know where to find us. But I'm going to quickly hop back into our presentation here, and I'm going to continue, with a real life example. And that real life example is a client of ours, or a user. They're called Premier Entertainment Group. Maybe you guys are familiar. They're out of Alabama, I believe. Yeah, I want to try to anchor what I just showed you a little bit in a real world example. So they're based in Alabama. They have 8 full-timers, I think, obviously a bunch of freelancers, and they work on around about 400 events a year, I believe. So they really know what it means to be busy. And before Rentman, they were in some way the living statistics of our industry report. So their vice president and CFO, Steven, told us their warehouse ran on manual spreadsheets that were often time consuming, difficult to keep up to date. Packing mistakes were a frequent issue. Items were constantly missed. And yeah, Steven really put it best himself, where he said, small pieces of equipment would be left at venues and they wouldn't notice it for weeks sometimes. And after implementing Rentman, things really took a turn. Obviously, it took a little bit to get used to the system. It always does. But after implementing Rentman, the transformation gave their whole team a completely different level of confidence. So today they use Rentman for crew and transport planning, quotes, because we do all of those things as well, and of course, equipment planning. And in Steven's words, our teams are now much more confident about what's in the truck when they leave the warehouse. And really what that has translated into for them, if we're talking about actual numbers, is that they probably had a 25 to 35% increase in business because they could more confidently quote those events much quicker as well, and know much further in advance if they're going to have equipment shortages with that real-time availability calculation that I just showed you guys, if you paid attention, months ahead of that. And really, in the end, they have increased flexibility with that real-time inventory tracking and management. They have an all-in-one equipment tracking, crew and transport planning built in with financial insights. And then they can directly identify those equipment shortages in a much more serious way. And really stories like that, I think, represent really why we do what we do and why we're really pushing for that warehouse autonomy, that direct link between those different parts of your organization. And it's really about taking that chaos that I mentioned earlier and turning it into calm, very confident control that directly can impact your bottom line as well, as you can see right here. Yeah. To take that control to the next level with even greater speed and efficiency, I want to hand things over to my colleague Sven. I've been talking a lot. I can also talk very fast. He's a little bit calmer than me. And he's going to be talking about supercharging your warehouse with RFID, which has been on everybody's mind recently. So Sven, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'll let you take over.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you, Tim, for the first part already. I think it's been very clear. I didn't see that many questions coming in, so that's really
good
nice.
stuff. I'm doing my job.
Exactly. Let me quickly start sharing my screen. Well, perfect. So the second part, like I already mentioned before, is going to be about RFID, how to get started with RFID, but also why people should use RFID. And before we dive into that, I just want to hear and see from you guys, how are you working in your warehouse right now? So we've seen that people are using spreadsheets, but does that then also automatically mean that you're printing out your packing slips? So are you still working on a paper basis, or are you already using QR codes, or maybe even using RFID already? Just want to see what you guys use right now. You can fill that in the chat if you want.
Yeah, let us know in the chat if you're maybe using some of the systems out there already, Flex, R2, or even if you're using spreadsheets, might be cool to see like what you're doing. Oh, an RFID user, Sven.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Cool. RFID scanners and barcodes, paper slips. Cool. Okay. Nice. Yeah, just you can keep filling it in if you want, and that's also quite useful for us to know, obviously. So why should people actually use RFID? So on the right side of the screen, you can actually already see the main topic and the main reason for people to start the RFID implementation. And that's because they want to increase the speed and operation speed in the warehouse. And we've seen that you can actually do that with RFID quite well. We see customers having a 40% increase in speed and efficiency in the warehouse, and that's on a daily basis. And we can get to that number because we can scan your items, you can scan your equipment without actually seeing it, right? So if you now work with QR codes or barcodes, for example, you will have to open up your flight case, search for your barcode, then do a scan, and that's per item. With RFID, we can scan multiple items in one go. The hardware itself actually mentions that it can scan like more than 1,000 tags per second. Well, I think that's a bit much, but it is possible. And you don't even have to open up your flight cases to scan them. So even if you have stacked flight cases, which is used quite often, then you can scan through all of them, so no heavy lifting required anymore. And like mentioned before, you can scan hundreds of items in seconds, like cable cases. We have one customer that recently told me that they scanned more than 600 cables in just 10 seconds. And that would usually take them like, probably more than an hour to manually go through, sort it out, figure out if anything's missing, and mark it back, yes or no. And because we can scan through your flight case, there's also no need to actually search for that QR code, right? So that's also quite convenient instead of looking for every single code every time. So I want to show you guys what it actually brings for a customer. So what were the results for customers that are using RFID right now? So on the left-hand side, we have the before RFID. In the middle, we have the after RFID. And on the right-hand side, you'll see the results from that. So one of our earlier customers in the Netherlands, it's actually where I am from and where I'm presenting. That's why it's dark on my side and very bright on Tim's side. So our first Dutch customer actually used manual barcode scanning and QR code scanning, or sometimes even type in serial numbers within their Rentman system. And in their case, it would take like minutes sometimes for different items or to actually process one flight case. And they did an entire RFID implementation. And that means that they can now scan all of their items as if it was a bulk item. And they scan like flight cases with their RFID handheld reader. And like scanning out a full flight case of cables, for example, will just take seconds. Same goes for LED panels, which they have quite a few of, and also lighting fixtures. For them, they actually calculated this themselves, but it started for them to actually save money. So in their case, 8K in euros per month on a 5-person warehouse. And that's actually quite a good thing to hear from them. They actually didn't fire 2 people. They actually started doing even more jobs within the same time frame that they did before. So that's actually where you already see that very big increase in efficiency and speed overall in the warehouse. Then the second customer that we had usually really relied on their checklists and also for visual checks, for example. And I've actually been working in AV warehouses myself for quite a while, and we always used a paper checklist or paper slip. And it was always very easy to make a mistake picking the wrong item, something that looked very similar to the item that you actually wanted to pick. So mistakes were made very easily. But then they actually started using RFID. We were able to flag those missing items before it caused an issue on the project itself at the venue. And we were able to show that they were picking incorrect items and maybe even misplacing items in the wrong truck or lorry, for example. So in this case, we were able to prevent all those mistakes from being made, and were able to tackle them before they became a real issue at a location. And therefore, they didn't need to send any trucks like after they already started driving. And well, as you can imagine, couriers and sending new vans is quite expensive as well. So it saves them quite a few euros in this case. And then misplaced items and items that are very difficult to find, for example. If one item is missing on location, then people are starting to panic. Did someone pack it? Is it here? Is it still at the warehouse? People start calling. They call the account manager. The account manager calls people in the warehouse. And that's how a very stressy situation starts to evolve. We want to prevent that situation from happening. And I think that having no stress in your work environment, well, that makes it better for everyone. But it also shows that it's something that is not only happening in the warehouse, but like over the entire company. So it starts at the top level, goes down to the account managers, and then back to the warehouse people. So we want to prevent that, and RFID seems to be a very good way to actually get to that point. So this is these are some very clear results of implementations that we've been doing for our customers. And I think it's the best thing to show the real results from our customers here as well. So what does it actually look like to scan with RFID? As you can imagine, it's actually quite difficult to give a demo here right now in a webinar. So we prepared 2 videos. On the left-hand side, you'll see the Rentman app, where you can actually see what's happening on the app. And on the right-hand side, you will see my colleague Vadan doing a scan during a trade show. And I'm going to talk you through the videos. So again, on the left-hand side, you see the app. This is inside the warehouse model. We select a project, hit book, and then we see our digital packing slip. Then Vadan starts to pull the top trigger on the RFID gun, starts waving it around, and you can see that the items are being scanned, 115 items in the flight case. We scan it, we book it, it goes to on location, boom, that's it. Now we know for all of those 115 items in this specific flight case, which serial numbers were booked out on location, because we still do this on serial level. And that's actually how easy it can be. Just want to quickly show you the video of Vadan, because like watching at 2 screens is quite a challenge, I guess. So you can actually see him moving around with the scanner, and you can see the faces of the people as well, which is quite funny, I think. They were really amazed by how quick that worked. So this is how that would look like. You can do this per flight case. So I can imagine that you all want to know how you can actually get started with RFID now that you've seen how cool it actually is. So it actually starts with 3 main steps. The first thing that we usually decide on is a first type of item to get started with. And we can see that for most companies, that's actually an item that takes quite a bit of time to handle in the warehouse. And that's also probably an item where you will see the benefits of using RFID fairly quickly, right? Because, well, saving time is one of the things that will be noticed quite fast. After you've selected that first type of item, you can just simply start applying the RFID tags, link the RFID tags, and that's it. Once you've linked the RFID tags, you can actually do that like in a few seconds. Let's say for cables, you have 100 5-meter power cables, power cords, just attach 100 tags to them, scan 100 RFID tags within Rentman, and then we automatically can create 100 unique serial numbers out of that, and that's the entire linking process. And yeah, well, once you've done that, you can actually already start scanning in the warehouse as well. So the implementation itself, yes, it will take time, but it's not very complicated to do if you have the right plan for that. Then I want to talk you through some of the best practices that we've seen. We've been doing quite a few implementations, and during that time, we've also learned quite a few things about RFID, how to use it, how not to use it. So I want to quickly share that with you to prevent any unnecessary mistakes that we've already made. So the first thing you should do is really decide on what is the reason for you or for your company to get started with RFID. Is that going for a more efficient warehouse, so more speed? Do you simply want to keep better track of your high value items, for example? Or is it more important for you to make sure no mistakes are made? Right. So this is a very important step, because this will be the main reason and the main picking point for your first type of items that you want to tag as well. Identify one type of item that you do. For most companies, that's cables, because it takes a lot of time, and then do it step by step. So finish that first type of item group, the category of that item, and then go over to the next one. One of the more difficult and challenging things of doing an RFID implementation is keeping track of items that already have or do not already tag. It's quite difficult, and you can actually see how our users have tackled that. They use color labels on different storage locations. So if they tag a cable, they put it on the left side. If they didn't tag a cable, they put it back on the right side, and even color labels on the items themselves as well. And that helps them to keep track of items that already have a tag or do not have a tag. And also one thing that we've seen that's very important is to make sure that the people that are going to do the implementation really know why they are doing that implementation. You as a warehouse manager are probably not going to do the implementation yourself, but maybe people in the warehouse are. And it doesn't really, it's not necessarily a very fun thing to do, right? So tagging hundreds of cables, it's quite a boring job at one point. So you want to make sure that people really know and really understand why they are actually doing that, because it's simply going to make their life easier. And yeah, we call it create RFID champions. They are the ones that are going to use it, so they have to be on board as well. And also standardized labeling. Having different labels, having tons of different labels for all your different equipment also makes the entire implementation very cumbersome and very difficult, because for every item you'll have to find out which label should I use, and that's going to take quite a bit of time. We think that's not necessary if you just standardize your labeling and use the correct and right tags. Then some key takeaways that we've had and learned during the implementations as well. The right tag on the right item really is key. And together with the tag placement, that really makes or breaks how RFID works. So in the beginning, it might seem that one tag that you have is not functioning as it should, but maybe just turn it like 90 degrees, put it on the exact same place, and spontaneously it starts working. That's how easily RFID can be influenced. And that's why it's very important to do those tests. But also the right tag already makes a very big difference. The implementation, again, it doesn't need to be complex if you prep it well. Take it step by step. Don't overdo it. There always will be some things that you find out during the implementation itself. We still often see customers where they didn't actually tag every item yet, even though they thought they did. No worries, that's no big deal. You can easily find the ones that you didn't tag them, and put them back in the system again. And again, yes, it takes time, but as you can see by the results from our current customers, it's a very good step into making a more efficient and smoother running warehouse. So I can imagine that there's quite a few questions in the meantime. I actually cannot see them during my presentation as well, so I have to quickly slide over to.
Yeah, I can help you out already. But yeah, guys, if you have any questions about what I mentioned about the software side of things, and now with Sven talking about a little bit more on the hardware and RFID side, definitely encourage you to post them into the chat right now, or into the Q&A. Either option works for us. I think this is a really great opportunity for everybody that has been hearing a lot about RFID or maybe wants to make a step into a new software solution to ask us about it. So use the next like 5 to 10 minutes to ask us a bunch of questions. Obviously, you can reach out to us after, but right now you have us live, and who knows when that will be the next time. Okay, Sven, we have one question from an anonymous attendee. They were asking, what is your suggested solution for thousands of small AV parts, such as cables and adapters?
And so for cables, we actually have an RFID tag that works really well on cables, right? Cables is a very simple and easy use case for us. And probably the same tag can also work for the adapters. Obviously, there's also going to be a few items where RFID is probably not the best way to go. Always will be exceptions like that. And for those items, I would recommend to use a very small QR code or a data matrix code, still with a unique number, because you still want to be able to keep track of those serial numbers of yours. But yeah, I think that would be the easiest way to go. And actually, I can actually show that as well if you want. I have to quickly switch screen then. In the meantime, you can quickly handle a different question if you want.
Yeah, while Sven is setting this up, I had a question coming from Garrick. If Rentman as a software communicates with System 360, I'm assuming you're talking about Microsoft 360 here. We don't have a native integration with it. However, we do have a very powerful API with some really great webhooks, and also have a Zapier integration, which means it also depends on what kind of information you're looking to send back and forth between the systems. There's a very high chance that it's already possible with a tool like Zapier that makes the integration super easy. So even without any coding background, I can't code at all. There's a fairly simple way of integrating systems with Rentman. So it might be worth looking into that, Garrick. If you have any other questions about this, let me know.
Also, in the meantime, I actually opened up the, oh yeah, sorry. In the meantime, I opened up the Geartracking website. And if you go to RFID tags, you can actually find our most used tag, which is the RM3. That's the one that we also use on cables, like you can see right here. This is XLR cables, and we use a heat shrink that actually fits over the connector and then shrinks down to what you see there. But you could also go for like the pre-printed QR codes or data matrix code as well. We also have a help me choose section where you can actually find out which tag or label works best on the item that you want to tag. So it should be fairly easy to find the right items there.
Nice. I hope that answers your question, anonymous attendee. Then we have two more RFID questions, which you can maybe get started with right away. How do you avoid mistakenly scanning a tag? Is this handled by distance?
So for a big part, yes, distance is a very easy way to make sure you're not scanning a wrong tag, for example. But we also show you in Rentman if an item is or isn't planned or scheduled on the project that you're working on right now. So if you're scanning a tag that doesn't belong to an item that is planned on the project that you are packing at that point, then we also show you, wait, you're scanning something that you shouldn't be scanning. Then you can just either ignore it, delete it, or still add it as additional equipment if you want.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. We have another RFID question here by Victoria. She's wondering if we offer multiple sizes of RFID tags, which I think is yes, right, Sven?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we actually have a few different RFID tags. Earlier, I mentioned that we should try to standardize labeling, but yeah, we can only go so far in doing that. So we have a few different tags, but we try to keep the amount of tags that we use as small as possible to keep the implementation as easy as possible.
Right. Yeah. And if you want to see all of those different RFID tags, I think we have 7 or 8 different ones these days, if I'm not
mistaken. It depends a bit on the region, actually.
Depends on the region. Okay.
Yeah.
But Victoria, if you want to see all of the ones that are available for you, you can just go to geartracking.com. And then there's a really good overview of like what we're selling right now. And again, a key part of like the cool thing about Rentman, especially in combination with Geartracking, is that we can guarantee that the tags that we sell with Geartracking actually work with the software that we're selling, which is Rentman, right? So it's really well integrated with each other, which also means that instead of having to work with another third party, there's a lot of integration partners for RFID, you don't have to do that because we do both. Yeah. So the implementation itself is much easier. And that's what we're really trying to do, Sven, if I understand you correctly as well, is we're really trying to lower the entry barrier into RFID because so far it's been like a massive undertaking or a perceived massive undertaking.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And Garrick, apologies, CRM System 360. I'm not familiar with it. And if Rentman integrates with it, you would have to check if they offer a well-established API or if they have a Zapier integration. And if they do have that, there's a very good chance that Rentman might be able to integrate with that. If that isn't possible, there might also be a chance that an export of spreadsheets from Rentman and an import into the CRM or the other way around would be possible as well. Yeah, might be good to look into that. And if you want to know exactly, then just shoot us an email. Okay. Guys, last chance for you to ask some questions. Again, if you want to know anything else about the software itself, about Rentman, or about RFID, last opportunity to post that into the Q&A or chat. Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So if there's anything else, let us know now. If you come up with something later, there's always ways to reach us. Sven, how can people reach out to you if they have any questions or if they're interested in RFID?
So they can always reach out to us via info@geartracking.com, or they can just give us a call. You can find the phone number on our website, geartracking.com. And then, yeah, we're there to help you out as well.
Awesome. Perfect. And the same goes for us, for Rentman. Again, if you guys are interested in learning a little bit more, you can just head over to rentman.io. You can learn more about the software there. You can also sign up for a 30-day free trial there. And for any other question, you can also send an email to info@rentman.io or sales@rentman.io, depending on what you're interested in. If you already are a Rentman user and you want to learn more about RFID, then you can also send an email to support@rentman.io. So there's a variety of ways you can reach out to us like that. Perfect. Yeah, that's it from our end. Thanks so much for joining today. Thanks so much to AVIXA for having us. And again, if you guys want to learn anything else about either the software or geartracking.com, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks so much and have a good one.
All right. Thank you, Tim and Sven. And I'd like to thank our attendees so much for joining us on today's webinar, From Chaos to Control, Modernize Your AV Warehouse Operations with Inventory Management Software and RFID. This recording will be available on the AVIXA website at avixa.org/webinars within about 5 to 7 business days. And your half renewal unit will be applied to your transcripts within those 7 days. If you have any trouble, please contact AVIXA's webinar team at webinars@avixa.org. An important side note for you CTS holders, however, if you registered for this webinar with an email address other than what is on file for you, you cannot get credit for attending. This can be fixed, however. Please email membership@avixa.org and let your account manager know that you used the wrong email address, and we'll get it corrected for you on the back end. We want to thank today's sponsor, Rentman, and a huge thank you to Sven and Tim for helping us to understand new ways and new workflows to scale your AV and equipment operations. Be sure to continue the conversation and connections made today by joining the AVIXA Exchange. It's an AV provider directory and a year-round community where you can grow your network and stay updated on industry trends. We hope you've enjoyed our webinar today. Thank you and make it a great day, everyone.
Thanks, guys.